Right, I've decided to make this video, and the title of it is going to be DC versus Marvel and influencers. Now, as people know, I'm a big comic book fan, whether it's DC or Marvel, whether or not it's with the comics, cartoon shows, or movies. And I think it's pretty clear that there's definitely some form of agenda that's going on, and this will tie into my stuff with influencers. And so basically, obviously you've had a lot of the Marvel, the Marvel films, which quite rightfully so have done very well. Where under Kevin Feige, they've hit the right formula in terms of what people like or what people want. Although, like now, to me, I think there's a little bit of superhero fatigue, in my honest opinion, in a sense of that I think they're pretty much everything's become too samey. There's nothing like that's stirring up the formula, so to speak. But in general, in terms of what they've done with they've been very successful with their Marvel franchises, and now obviously with the TV shows on Disney Plus, obviously where they've evolved, with the movies and the TV shows, they're various in degrees of which ones that people prefer. And obviously we're up to phase 4 now in the movie franchise, and I would admittedly say that I think phase 4 hasn't been kind of been that great in my honest opinion. I think the best of the bunch of the Marvel films, in my honest opinion, has been Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Absolutely, as people, you can see my review, which is non-spoiler. It's probably been one of my favourite recent Marvel movies currently at the moment. I thought it was a breath of fresh air. But there seems to be this bias, and I think obviously with DC films now, DC don't get out of this with clean hands, because obviously they've done a lot of mistakes with a lot of the behind the scenes with the company being changed over, and then there's been a lot of drama in terms of what's been going on behind the scenes, and what they've done obviously with their movies. So they've been a lot to blame with what they've done, but also I do think some of it, as a lot of it, has been to do with these influencers. And you've also seen me, whether it's been on social media or even on my YouTube channel, where I've discussed sites like Comic Book Movie and journalists like Josh Wilding, where you can clearly tell that they have a DC Comics agenda. And it's not just me that's kind of noticed that, because when I've looked on the internet, whether it's on Twitter or X as it's known as now, or even across the internet ethers, other people have noticed exactly the same thing. And in terms of what he's been doing, and I kind of believe that there's a lot of his influencers who are basically being paid, and obviously if they say anything kind of and obviously these people, it's almost as if that they have the power of God, where in a sense that they can make and break a movie. So if they go out and say, well, I don't watch the movie because it's crap or it's bad, what it then does, it then influences people to say, oh, okay, I'm not going to go and watch it. So then the movie fails. And if they praise a movie, whether or not the movie is good or not, again, that's kind of justified in the, in the person's objective thoughts of the movie. They build up, they can make that movie succeed. And I'm one of these ones where I kind of believe in, like checking something out and judging something for myself, because there's been some movies that that people they've praised, when they said they were good, and I watched it and thought it was average or didn't like it. And there's been films where they've said they've been bad, and I've gone out there and watched it, and I've actually really enjoyed it or found some enjoyment out of it. And I do think a lot of his influencers and sites want certain films to fail. Now, for example, you've got a site like GameSpot, which for me, as far as I know, I was aware of, only used to review video games. Now, it says it in the title, GameSpot. Now, for something like IGN, even if, for example, that I don't agree with the reviewer's score for a particular product, whether it's a movie, TV series, or a video game, at least IGN has always done video games, movies. They even do comics and TV shows, so they've always done it. So as I said, well, even if you don't agree with them, you can, that's something they've always done. Now, GameSpot, I don't know where all that's come from, because they never used to do that. So anyway, they reviewed Blue Beetle. Again, haven't seen it, so I can't judge it for myself. And they've given it a 3. And they seem to do this with every single thing that's related with DC Comics, which I find incredibly strange. And I tend not to bother with GameSpot anyway. I mean, you've got even stuff like Polygon, which in the past, though, and I probably still do, where I used to, where now they do movie reviews. Again, don't know where all this has come from, because they never used to kind of do this before. And it's kind of getting really silly, where certain influence can make and break something. And this is another thing that I've also been talking about in terms of the council culture, where people can completely, break something if they don't like it. And 1 minute they can love you, and then they can praise you, and then the next minute they can just completely just destroy you. And then you're not allowed to come back, even if you've made a genuine mistake, which all human beings do, depending on how bad it is. For example, because if it's a really, bad, horrendous crime, then obviously that's a completely different matter. But like now, and then especially with the advent of social media now, where you've got things like Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and all these things now, people now can spread their influence in how they want something to succeed, or how they want something not to succeed. We even saw things like when The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom, where obviously that got high praise and did very well. And then you got a lot of the hardcore PlayStation fanboys that basically were very upset, because obviously it not only got scored very well, but did very well in terms of sales. And then you had people going out there, creating accounts to review bomb the game, simply because that like a game, for example, like the Horizon Zero Dawn sequel wasn't as well received as the Zelda, so they got butthurt and tried to destroy the Tears of the Kingdom because of that. And then you even had some reviewers going on things like Metacritic and stuff like that, and all the other things that are available, putting out bad reviews of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom intentionally, so that they could lower down the score, because they were just butthurt. Again, this is completely ridiculous. You're seeing a similar thing now, where I read yesterday, where obviously Starfield now is has gone gold, and it's due to come out, and it's obviously going to be put on Game Pass, and I think you'll be able to play the game early. And then you're hearing stories that now that some of these hardcore PlayStation fans again are creating fake profiles to thousands upon fake profiles to review bomb the reviews, so they get to lower scores, so it doesn't do as well. And I think this is completely pathetic, because as I said before, whether the platform is Xbox, Nintendo, PlayStation, there's room for everybody. And if you're like me, who's got all the consoles, for example, luckily, and I'm always humble about that, you get the best of all the worlds. So you get the best of what PlayStation has to offer. You get the best that Xbox has to offer. You get the best that Nintendo has to offer. Obviously, if you've got the money to be able to buy everything, which I haven't been able to do. And this is what things like Game Pass has been great, because you're able to get all these things. But you're able to sit there and you're able to get the best of all of his worlds. Now, going back to DC and Marvel, it seems like, obviously, because that Marvel is the obviously dominant one, for example, right now, it's like, for example, that you're not allowed to like both. And it's a similar thing with back in the day, where you had Star Trek and you had Star Wars, where you basically had to sit there, and then you were made to sit there and to basically choose which one. And I don't know why you can't like both. Because me, I love Star Wars, especially the original trilogy. There was The New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi, more so than any others. And I like Star Trek, whether it's the original series and the original series and the original movies, the Next Generation and Air movies and TV show, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise, and the current ones now like Discovery, Strange New Worlds, Star Trek Prodigy, and Lower Decks, and soon Star Trek Starfleet Academy, which will obviously won't be here for a few years, and even longer because of the the ongoing strike. But I love all of it, and I think mainly it's because of I love sci-fi, and that's why I love all these things. But especially with these influencers and social media, it's like you're made to sit there and you're kind of to choose. And I think, even though it's a hard thing to say, I think that even when James Gunn now is in charge of the DCU or whatever it's called now, and obviously he's doing his first chapter called Gods and Monsters, and obviously he's doing direct writing and directing Superman Legacy. I think that that's going to go through this same problem as regards of the DC movies that have come before that. It's going to be the same issue, and then the movies after that. Now the only format where DC don't get that same kind of a problem is with the animated movies. Now, there's been some animated movies that are better than others, but even when the animated movies, some of them where people don't like them, it doesn't get crapped upon the same way as the live action, which I find a bit strange. So, for example, there were controversial things that apparently that they did in the Killing Joke animated movie, which I haven't watched it, but and I also got the graphic novel, the deluxe version of it, and which I will do a video on that at some point. And there was controversy in behind of what happened with that, but I didn't sit there and then see people trying to cancel in that, or people wanting that to kind of all the way to fail it. Now I know it's different because it's an animated movie, but I don't sit there and see that as that being any different, because you're looking at a lot of franchises now where they're doing big of all the DC animated movies don't come out in the cinema. But we do see the superhero animated movies like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie that recently came out, or the Spider-Verse sequel, two movies that have come out over the years, and the other one quite recently. So I think it's fair game to say, to say that they don't crap on the DC animated movies, although they don't get released onto the big screen, but they do get released on streaming or physical platform, things like DVD or Blu-ray. And I think it's getting, and I think to a point where I think DC, for me, I don't, and I've said this before, but I think that I don't think they should make live action movies anymore. And it pains me to say this because I want to see a lot of these superhero characters brought to the big screen and done right, and certain stories from the comics, because there's lots, whether it's DC or Marvel, there's lots of big stories, not some big and some not well known, that could be tapped into to make to be adapted to be great movies, whether it's live action or animated. But I just feel that it doesn't matter what DC do in terms of the movies, they're just not going to be well received or get the attention that they kind of deserve. Now, a movie can justifiably and objectively be bad, but when a Marvel movie is very good, people praise it. When a Marvel movie has been crap, I don't see the same outrage or people crapping on it when a movie's been bad. Like, for example, I didn't think Black Widow was very good, or even Iron Man 2 were actually very good movies, especially with the CGI. They didn't think, for example, that they were very good movies. Or even movies like The Eternals was a visually good-looking movie and a great cast, but it was just boring, and I just don't remember the actual movie. And then some of the other movies have been a bit of a mixed bag, in my honest opinion. But you don't see people sit there constantly making articles upon articles upon articles upon articles, slagging it off. And especially with people on comic book movie and people like Josh Whedon, even all the guy kept doing was making every week was flash videos. He kept just milking and milking and milking and milking and milking it. And then when, for example, there's been Marvel movies that have been well received, or people just forgot about, like Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, he after the second week where it just dropped off, never even bothered with it again. And a lot of these other outlets, where as soon as the movies disappeared, they're not bothered with it. I'm even hearing stories about now people are disappointed with a lot of the live action Marvel movie TV shows that are on Disney Plus. But I don't see people making articles moaning about that they don't like it, which is weird. I've even heard a lot of people saying that with the recent one, was it Marvel Secret Invasions, that people were that people didn't like it, and and then apparently it dropped off. But again, I didn't sit there and see a lot of these same influencers, whether it's on YouTube, Twitter, or on their own sites, going on about this. It just seems like that when Marvel put out a bang average product or something that is bad, they tend just to brush it underneath the carpet and forget about it like it never happened. But when DC do it, it seems to be completely different. And that's why, as I said just a while ago, that I think DC should just stick to just making animated movies, because I think the reason why they don't get crapped upon is because basically when it comes to the anime of all, as I said before, you're starting to see a big screen comic book adaptions coming onto the big screen now, whereas DC aren't necessarily doing that. DC have pretty much got that market locked, so you're seeing a lot of these DC animated movies all coming out or have been out, and they don't get crapped upon even when they have to get, even if some people don't like it, they just move on with them. And I think it's because that they've got that market licked, in the sense that they're not really kind of being challenged in that market. Whereas DC years ago were making a lot of their movies like Superman Returns, and prior to that, the Christopher Reeve movie, and then the Michael Keaton Batman movies, and the Val Kilmer Batman, and then you had the Dark Knight trilogy. And at the time, there weren't a lot of Marvel movies out that were necessarily completely being dominant. And I think now that Marvel is so dominant, and then they've got this set formula as to what formula, people are just used to that set formula of what they want. So even if DC makes something that's radically different, they won't watch it. If they sit there and they try to copy something similar to what Marvel do, for example, they're going to get accused of, of copying to what they're trying to do. So unfortunately, I think DC are beating a dead horse. I would like to hope, and I'm trying to be optimistic, that this will change under James Gunn's influence with his vision of the DCU, but I don't think it's going to change. And I've said, and I've made videos tackling on these issues many months ago, which you can check back on my video archives and what I've done on my stuff. But I don't think it's going to change, because you've got fanboys set in a way. So before, you see it in the gaming industry, where, as for what I just said about Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, where you've got opposition, the hardcore fanboys. I don't believe that the general PlayStation fanboys are like that, because some of them have probably got multiple consoles, like what I have. But you got the diehard PlayStation fans that would live and breathe and die for PlayStation. They're just gonna sit there and just hate on anything that's not PlayStation. And the fact that now you're gonna, obviously they're going as radical as wanting to review bomb a game that is non-PlayStation, and you're starting to see that now. I think it's kind of really pathetic, in my honest opinion, because I remember when I started off just having Nintendo products because that's all I could afford. But even then, I couldn't afford the games. Then it was PlayStation, because I liked what they had to offer and their format, because it was different, and then they had their set games. Then it was Xbox, and then as I said before, all these games have something to offer. So I just picked the best of, not taking the title from Star Trek Generation, I just picked the best of both worlds. So I've got everything covered. And that's to me is what a real game is about, where you love everything. Now, if you want to sit there and be a hardcore, you just want to play PlayStation approach because you prefer their games, that's fine. But I don't believe that you should go out there criticizing other people's enjoyment of other stuff, because it's simple, life is very short. Because I did a video about saying that I've lost 2 cousins in 1 year, and then in less than a year and a half. And life is too short to spend time just fully, hating and being bitter about certain things. Life is about enjoyment. And this is why I think you see here with my Blu-ray collection, if you look there, you'll see you can see my Xbox, some of them. And then I've got a lot of collection of different, genres of games from different consoles. And there's other consoles that I wish I had, but obviously money and space is, more so money is kind of the limit to what you can do. But I love everything. I mean, I've even been buying some classic retro games digitally, on my various different consoles. Even just the other day, a couple of days ago, I was even doing a live stream of Street Fighter 2. Now, by definition, that came out I remember when that came out in the arcades in 1992, when it first came out. And it evolved when you compare it to the other editions of Street Fighter, like Champion Edition and Turbo and Super Turbo. And obviously now you've got Street Fighter 5 and now Street Fighter 6. That is completely ancient, but I still have, of all the AI's a bit dodgy, I still have fun playing Street Fighter 2. It's still fun. And I really enjoyed my hour playing it on Vimrig, and I'm going to be doing a lot more of streams on these retro games and going back and then playing these games. I even had was playing through the arcade version of Final Fight, which I'm going to stream, and I really enjoyed that. And then Captain Commander, which I've never played, but I've seen that, and obviously by today's standards, that's, people say that's pretty basic, but I had fun playing it. And that's what video games are supposed to be about. It's the same thing with movies, as you can see in my collection here, whether not even just tied to just DC or Marvel, but it's about the enjoyment. And I think sometimes people have forgotten about the enjoyment of these movies, and especially, like I said before, where I've gone through a really bad time in the last year and a half, and not just I've lost my cousins, but health-wise. And sometimes you need that escapism, and you need to be lifted up, when you're feeling it really down. My local cinema now is closed down, and they've closed the branches. I don't think they're coming back, and it'll be by some miracle if they do. So now, for me to watch any of the movies now, like with the new Mission Impossible movie, Indiana Jones, probably wait for them to come out or buy them, or even the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I'll probably have to wait on all of that, and even Blue Beetle. Any other movie now, I'm gonna have to wait, because it's gonna have to travel out to another town, more than 4.5 miles away, and then probably gonna have to pay more money to sit there and watch it. And with my problems with my knees and mobility, it's gonna be a hard thing to do. But and then obviously now you've got the physical things that I've got here and DVDs, and you've got the various amount of streaming services that are available at your fingertips. I think we take things for granted that are available to us. But yeah, and that's with the DC Marvel. I mean, the characters are very different and all have to offer. That's why I think a lot of people who have now jumped on the bandwagon of Marvel, which is quite rightfully so. People like this kind of thing. Sorry, my other phone's going off. None of these people have even read the comic, because like if you read the comic book version of Secret Invasion to the TV series that they did on Disney, it's very different. Or the Captain America Civil War to what they did with that, it's very different and kind of more shocking in terms of what they did compared to the live action, to the graphic novel. And then I think a lot of people are really missing on a trick here in reading these graphic novels, these graphic novels in comics, whether it's DC or or DC or Marvel, where you can get the single comics or the graphic novels, and you see, and then you read and you see the difference between the comic book versus the live action version, or the TV version, or the version of these particular events. And people are missing out on these things. And even I'm slowly getting back into reading my comics, whether they've been old comics or even comics I've had for the past 30 to 40 years. I'm going back and then reading them and finding some real kind of enjoyment in it, in actually watching these things. But I think it's really disappointing when you're getting these influences, where I think, as I said before, where a lot of them are spoiling the fun, where it's like, don't watch this, it's crap. It's disappointing, blah blah blah, and they really put and then you'll see people and people are very quick to respond on things like Twitter or X, as known as I keep saying before, to say, "Oh, I knew it was going to be rubbish." It's absolutely poor. Like one person even said about Blue Beauty, goes, "Oh, the movie was absolute rubbish. It was complete crap. It looks like a TV film." And I think the whole movie looks like a TV thing. And I said to the guy, how on earth can you judge something when you actually haven't watched the movie from start to finish on a big screen, whether it's in IMAX or you're watching it in a really, a big screen with the Dolby, the DTS that they have in the big cinemas, and then you really experience it in the big screen. And then the movie hadn't even come out yet. And it's not like you're, like one of these influencers that are able to see these movies early. The guy didn't even answer back because the thing is, he can't. And then if these influencers stop putting, "Oh, that movie's crap," what they do is that they make this, then you get this slew comes within seconds, because that's what social media does. "Oh, I knew it was rubbish. I knew it was crap. It's going to fail. Crap. So you've already influenced something to fail. Now you look at The Flash, where it failed. I don't think it really failed because the movie was bad. It's because of the actor, what the actor did. If you actually go back and you actually look at the big review sites that actually reviewed the movie, The Flash actually got a really good score. Which I'm not saying it was the best movie ever made since the Ten Commandments. Although I still think the best superhero for my movie is Superman the movie with Christopher Reeve, which you can see there with the extended cut and the director's cut, the rest of the movie. But anyway, right? But it actually got good reviews because, again, a lot of things I said about the actual a lot of it is kind of heartbreaking, and some of the stuff that actually happens, or the cameos where you see obviously dead super actors that they CGI'd them, which I won't spoil. And then you always have to have people spoil and go, "Oh, it was ghoulish that they put dead CGI actors in it." But yet we've seen them do that with Harold Ramis as in Ghostbusters Afterlife, as them using his likeness in Ghostbusters Afterlife as Egon Spengler, and then the actor was dead years after the movie came out, right? Or using Paul Walker's likeness in Fast and Furious 7 or Fast 7 or Furious 7, or I don't know whatever it's called across the world. They use his CGI face over his brother's body. Is that then ghoulish? And as I said, well, we've done a video on this. So it's funny how people can be outraged and about stupid things, and the things that we need to be outraged about, where it's the way we treat the elderly, sexism, women being raped, being assaulted, the cost of living increase, disabled people, racism, all these things, xenophobia, all these things that should be outraged about. People aren't being outraged about, but it's stupid things. "Oh, they use dead actors." And as long as when I asked a family member, I told them, first question they asked me was, they ask permission from the family estate to use their likeness. I went, "Yeah." So my family member went, "So what's the problem?" Again, if Marvel had used an actor that was dead and used CGI likeness, I don't think people would be complaining the same way. You wouldn't see the thing. So as I said before, place like comic book movie and journalists like Josh Wilding, they're going to keep doing this because that's their MO. They don't really care. They're not real fanboys. And a lot of these other sites like GameSpot and all these other people across these so-called influence, they don't care because they're just doing it to get clicks and views and to be popular and to see people, fanboys, fighting each other so that they get the clicks and views. And they're sitting back with their legs crossed and their arms folded. They don't care because they're seeing these movies for free, getting free merchandise and all these things. They don't want to sit there and then say anything bad about the certain big companies because they're just going to get blacklisted. And I remember a particular big influencer I'm not going to mention even admitted that they see the movies early, which a lot of the influencers do, as I've already said, and people, it's very well known, and get given 5-star treatment in terms of hotels, free memorabilia. They get, even when the movies come out on Blu-ray, they get given it for nothing, and all these merchandise associated with films. So they're not going to sit there and say anything bad in it, because if you say something bad, "Oh, that movie was crap." If I was working at a company and I saw a big influencer crapping on my movie, am I going to sit there and let them go and see a movie early and give them free stuff? Of course you're not going to do it. You're going to sit there and suck up to them. I remember many years ago, we'll finish this up because my battery's starting to finish. I remember back in the 90s where IGN were crapping. I think it was on crapping on some companies and how bad the games were. And I don't know if they were or weren't. I think it was on Acclaim. I could be wrong. So if I've got that wrong, then I apologize wholeheartedly for getting that company wrong. But I remember that I crapping on certain companies, and then as for these companies back in the day, they still obviously now they get the things digitally, and were given the games early to review. And then I remember IGN ended up crapping upon these set games by these companies over the course of when all these games were being released, and they stopped giving them review copies. So what ended up to happen is that IGN had to sit down and buy the games on day release like everybody else, but it meant that they ended up putting up the reviews of the game by that particular company late because they weren't given the game early because they got blacklisted. I don't know if that goes on now, but that's what I remember happening. So it just, as I said before, I just want to leave you this thought. Where it comes to video games and movies, I know it's difficult because you don't want to waste your hard-earned money in buying a game and, and then it being crap or you're wasting money. But I would say, look, regardless of who the company is, DC, Marvel, Nintendo, Xbox, PlayStation, I would say, for anything, make up your own mind, because you never know, you might like it. You might agree with what these people say, or you might dislike it. As I said before, when it comes to my reviews of products on certain things, I even did the update on those JVC Bluetooth wireless headphones that I bought. I even did an update video on that, which I'm going to upload. But I've always said it with my YouTube channel. You will always get 100% objective, honest review and what I think of something. I'm not sponsored by any company. Although it would be nice if I was big to be sent products, but that might happen if I ever become big. But even if I did get sent stuff by a certain company, I'm going to sit there and tell it as it is. And even if they sat there and said, right, we're not sending out any stuff, I'm still going to do it. But as I said, even with the stuff that you see on my channel, whether it's reviews of drinks or whatever it is, or food, game products, video games, movie reviews, anything, you will always get my 100% honest opinion on what I think of something. I'm not going to sit there and kind of just say it, because at the end of the day, especially with a lot of these products I bought it out of my own money. And if I sit there and I feel that that thing is worth it, I'm going to tell it's worth it. So that if you go out and buy it, for example, you feel like that you're not being cheated. The same if I feel that something is not worth the money, I'm going to sit there and I'm going to tell you that it isn't, so that maybe you don't waste your money. But at the end of the day, whether you agree with me or you disagree with me, it's just my own objective opinion, what I feel about something. I'm not right, I'm not wrong. I'm just saying about how I feel about something. And that's how it should be with the DC movies, and equally with the Marvel movies, where if they're bad, indifferent, average, or they're really excellent, they should be called out for what they are.